What's up, everyone? 7 Octoberz here. Welcome to Nightmare on Sedgwick Avenue, the home of hip hop and horror. And today we have a dope guest I'm excited to have on, Alex. He is the director of Mind, Body, and Spirit, a indie yoga horror movie that I just watched a couple months back. And I hit him up, I think on social media, I tagged him and we started communicating. I was like, I would love to have you on the podcast. And he said yes, and he's also a hip hop fan, so we get like a 2-for-1. So, Alex, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm excited to talk hip hop and horror with you. So, I mean, first, obviously, we want to get like the film, right? Because that's kind of one of the main reasons why we connected. And like I was telling you offline, outside of the podcast, that I really enjoyed the film. It was like a pleasant surprise. And the way it was promoted too was really dope. Like I said, I saw it on Welcome Villain, which is like distributor, and they kept posting about it, and I just kind of kept it on my radar because I heard about it a few like months back. And then they finally announced it was on Prime, so I rented it. And for me, I know that the promo online, it was like a mix of Hereditary with like Paranormal Activity. For me, it was like more of like a mix of Hereditary with like Deadstream. I don't know if you ever saw Deadstream, like the new.
Oh
it
yeah,
came out maybe a couple
Deadstream
years.
rules.
Yeah,
I love that movie. Yeah.
so I love that movie. It was like a perfect mix of like horror comedy, which not a lot of people can pull off, and I feel like that's what your film did too. It was like a mixture of horror and comedy, but not to the point where it's like silly. It was like really like dope. So how did that come about? Like the concept of the film. Like we'll start there.
Yeah, I mean, the concept of the film was like definitely born from some pandemic boredom and needing to get a little sweat in during the pandemic. So I was doing a lot of YouTube yoga. I followed this woman named Yoga with Adrian, who's kind of like the YouTube yoga influencer, and she sort of became my best friend and my worst enemy over the course of the pandemic. I fell in love with her. I fell out of love with her. Um, and me and Matt and Dan Asma, the executive producer of the film, had sort of been kicking around the idea of making our own movie and sort of working within like the budget limitations. And we saw the film Host, which really sort of opened our eyes to like what you could do, kind of with limited space and more of a tight concept. And yeah, it was like we those two things just sort of melded together from there, like my weird obsession with yoga and our desire to make like a found footage movie. So yeah, and
That's pretty cool.
now you have this strange love child that is Mind, Body, Spirit.
Yeah, and I actually now I do see also the host. I can see like the way you filmed it, because that's another thing that I wanted to mention that I really loved was like the creativity of how you guys filmed it. Like it opens up with like a laptop and like it's like a webcam vibe, but also laptop vibe. Like
Yeah.
you said, you had ads on there, and you want to share a little bit about, we were talking offline about Amazon Prime with those ads. But I really enjoyed the way you guys filmed it too. Like, who thought about that idea or that concept?
I think that came from, both of us. Like, I would say, just to give Matt some credit, I am more chronically online than he is. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of the like inspiration for the YouTube ads came from me because I'm very keyed into what the algorithm thinks that I want, and what kind of ads it serves me. I think it's like really telling what it's and kind of says something about me, or at least the way that I am like in the digital space. Um, and I think also Matt and I have always just been so enamored with sort of in-world content within movies. It's like we talk a lot about Paul Verhoeven, who made Starship Troopers. There's like the sort of propaganda ads within that, and like the ads within RoboCop and things like that. And I think in a day and age where we're just like constantly being fed advertisements, I think it just would have rang false to watch what feels like a YouTube playlist without being interrupted at least a few times. You
Yeah.
can't even watch movies on Amazon Prime now without,
Yeah.
unless you want to pay for it. You're going to get ads in the middle of your fucking movie. So
Yeah, and even if
um,
you pay for it now, which is kind of
they know they.
right.
I don't know if you have you ever used the app called Splitwise.
No.
It's this like app used for like splitting costs, like if you do like a big like friend trip or like a group thing or something.
Okay.
And it was like I was trying to use it today, and it was like, "Are you ready to upgrade to Splitwise Premium? Like you've submitted like your maxed expenses for the day." And I was just like, like really fuck like we're doing this now, we're doing subscriptions to like a calculator, like come on
That's
now, fuck
crazy.
out of here. We're gonna be subscribing to sunsets and sunrises pretty soon.
Seriously. That's funny. Yeah, like I really enjoyed that. And what about like the like practical effects and like at least, or actually, you know what? Before we get into that, like if you want to give like a brief synopsis too of like the film for those like that might not, I'm gonna try to put maybe like a clip before the interview just so they can kind of see like the trailer, but sum it up in like a few sentences without spoilers.
Yeah, yeah, so this movie, Mind Body Spirit, it follows Anya, who's this sort of millennial wannabe yoga influencer, and she inherits this house from her grandmother, which is the only way a millennial could afford a house
True.
in 2024. And she moves into this house. She moves away from her mom, who she's sort of estranged from, and she discovers in the house that there's this sort of secret passage, this hidden attic, this sort of ritual room, this worship room that her grandmother has sort of left behind her, and specifically this book of rituals that she's left behind. And Anya sees in the book this opportunity to sort of differentiate herself and give herself sort of a purpose and a direction in her quest to become a big YouTube yoga influencer. But what she doesn't really consider is the contents of the actual book and her grandma's intentions with leaving it behind to her.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really dope premise. Like I was like, I don't even think I really read too much of the premise. I was just kind of went in blindly. I heard yoga horror and I was like, I gotta watch this because I was like, I've never seen those two things together. So I was like, I gotta watch it.
Yeah, that's what we were hoping. You know, it's like we kind of pitched people on it as a yoga horror, and that's about all you need to know. You know, I
Yeah.
think that's gotten a lot of people in the door
Yeah.
because I think some people probably already find yoga pretty horrifying as a concept. So
Yeah.
I don't know how much more we needed to add to it, but I think people were appreciative that we did.
Yeah, and even the cover art was really like intriguing too. So I was like, what's gonna happen? Like I was like, I gotta watch this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's the sort of combination of yoga and body horror. I'm surprised that
Yeah.
someone didn't already beat us to it.
Yeah.
There's a great. I think the closest thing that's we've ever seen is that scene in Suspiria,
Oh yeah.
where the girl's like sort of pretzeling. I mean, that is just one of the best body horror scenes ever.
Yeah.
And there are times when I'm in a yoga class where I'm like, what if this arm just gave
Right.
and then I just became a spider person.
Yeah.
Totally normal thought to have, by the way.
Yeah, and that is weird. I even had to like Google it because I was like, I have to fact check it. I'm like, is this really the first yoga horror? And I was like, oh yeah, like not like done like where it was like the main character trying to be like an influencer. So it's like it's a really like a cool movie too. The fact that it doesn't really have like doesn't show the year, but you can just kind of see like from the vibe of the film, like it's in the current, in the current type of years.
Yeah,
Um,
it feels modern and kind of timeless too. I think the house is so
yes.
old. There's like this really weird mix of things, and I love a movie that sort of lives in a sort of like chronological like liminal space. Like I think of It
Yeah.
Follows a lot. Like It Follows, it's like
Yes.
they all have cell phones, but the cell phones don't look like our cell phones, and they watch these old black and white TVs, and you're just sort of like it it wants you to pay attention to the concept and the content of the movie and not be sort of distracted by, modern bullshit. No one no one
Yeah.
no one likes watching someone else texting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that
it's
is
like
true.
I do that all fucking day, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I forgot there was another film that when you said that I forgot it was like a horror film, and I forgot where they don't have cell phones or anything, but it looks like it's modern, and it wasn't It Follows, it was something else, it was something more recent, but I was like I thought it was too cool too because like I said I love those type of films too where you can't tell what year it's taking place in, but it's just like you're just intrigued by the story, so it doesn't even matter at that point.
Yeah,
um,
I think sometimes that can get distracting, especially when like it's so insistent, you know. It's like on that being part of the thing is like it's like Snapchat, and it's like, well, this is not going to make sense to anyone in like 2 years, you know. It's like make this like I don't know. That's a personal pet peeve of mine, but yeah, I do love a movie that sort of feels timeless in that way.
Yeah, and kind of getting back to the question I was gonna ask too about like the effects, because I don't want to give too much spoilers, because I want people obviously go watch it themselves. But there's a scene, I'll just call it the vomit scene, right? Like that was probably one of my favorite ones. How was that done? Like, was it like a lot of practical stuff going on, or how was that?
Yeah, that is all practical stuff. That which is my favorite. I mean, like there's just
Yes.
something kind of tactile to a practical effect that you know. Well, the string itself was not was CGI, as many people on Letterboxd have pointed out. They're like worst CGI string ever, and it's like, yeah, well, okay, we're a low budget movie, but you know, there's gonna be a little there's gonna be you know cracks in the facade.
Yeah.
But the rest of it was, and that was for safety. It's like we couldn't have her actually swallowing a string. But
Yeah.
the vomit was all practical. There's a great photo somewhere on our Instagram account of our makeup artist, Aldrich Chica, and we've got this like tube snaking along the side of Sarah Bartholomew, our lead actress, and
Yeah.
Aldrich is blowing vomit through the tube out the
Oh
other
wow.
side. And something that you should know, because Sarah, our actress, had to put a lot of the liquid in her mouth, it's gluten-free vomit.
Wow.
Sarah could not have glutinous vomit like the rest of us. You know, we all eat our vomit with lots of gluten in it, but Sarah could not. So we had this huge bottle of gluten-free vomit at the ready for Sarah to swallow and spit out like the champion that she is.
Oh wow, yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, I thought it was like because I know the string, of course, it looked kind of like fake, but the vomit scene was like crazy to me because I was like, that has to be real. There's no way that's like CGI.
Yeah, no, we had a really fun time with that. Getting to do like a vomit scene, I mean, like that's a dream as like a horror director, you
Yeah.
know, just getting to do like that hard barf.
How many
Dream come true.
takes?
Oh, only a couple. Like I said, we were a low
Okay.
budget movie, so we had
Yeah.
to like be like on to the next one, which you
Yeah.
know put a lot of pressure on people, and
Yeah.
everyone really stepped up. You know, it was a very like run and gun kind of production. So
Yeah.
everyone really pulled their weight, and I just love our crew so much. So shout out to them.
Yeah. Shout out to them. Yeah, really great job. And how many people were you like on the project? How many like cast and crew?
It was like 15 of us total, and
Oh.
we, you know, it's like a super small crew. We were just like in this like big ass like haunted mansion in Pasadena, or sorry, Altadena for about 10 days. And we very quickly became good friends, because we were just sort of all being haunted in this house together. Truly like one of the most haunted places on earth. It's so cursed.
I
It's
was
called the
reading
Wood.
about it.
It's called the
Yeah.
Woodbury Story Estate. Yeah, give it a shot. You can. I honestly
Yeah.
think you can around Halloween time. You can. They have like sort of
Like a
events where you
paranormal
can
type of thing. Like,
sleep the night in it. Yeah. So
oh,
if you're
wow. What?
if you're a sick fuck that is into that, shout out Woodbury Story House.
What kind of one encounter that stands out to you that you guys had while you were at that haunted house?
All of us were like sort of plagued by these visions of this entity we called George. He followed me home one night to my house and was like sort of standing over me on my couch.
Oh shit.
Um, and this is a story we've actually forgotten to tell in many other interviews. So this is a
Okay.
Nightmare
Exclusive.
on Sedgwick Ave exclusive. Um, but the bread that you see in the movie, um, like the that has been laid out, sort of like like sacrificially, or for the
Mhm.
grandmother to eat in the next life, or what have you, whatever the ritual is. We came up to the attic to continue filming the next morning, and there were like human bite marks like taken out of the bread, like
Oh
someone had been
no,
actually eating them. It
that's
wasn't like
crazy.
a rat or like anything like that. It was like these like full
Like
teeth mark
human.
bites,
Oh,
and yeah, that
that's
freaked us out.
creepy. And talking about like the whole like the strange grandmother and everything, and like because again it reminds me of, like Hereditary a lot. Like where did the mythology come from? Like of all that, like is it some like based on someone's like type of culture, or just kind of something that came up as part of the story?
Yeah, so I mean, so much of it is actually rooted in like sort of Slavic witchcraft and stuff, but I think, as we were thinking about Varasha and who she was as a person, I think so much of what she has created here in this ritual is rooted in just evil. It's like
Yeah.
I think she was the original influencer. She pulled things from black magic and witchcraft from around the world and sort of like hodgepodged it into her own
Mm.
sick fucking mixture, to unleash on her granddaughter. So yeah, a lot of it is based in Slavic ritual, I think, on the surface, but then as the further you get into it, the further it's like, the more it's like, oh no, this is just something uh sort of deep and evil and beyond understanding. It's like
Yeah.
it's not just not her culture. It's like not anything, not anyone's culture. It is just
Like her
fucking
own.
evil.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always love that stuff because that's another thing that I really love about like I like I'm a huge fan of like Evil Dead, like all those films that have like mythology, like Hellraiser. So I really that's another part of that I liked about the story.
The
Was
book.
yeah the book. Like I was like
Yeah,
it could
I
it be
love
like
a
a
book.
spin off, you know? You could
I
just
mean,
keep going.
and you know, it's so easy to say don't read it, but it's like you telling me you find a book that's addressed to you in an attic and you're not going to read that shit. Like hell yeah. Like I don't know about you, but like any little morsel of
Like
attention,
curiosity.
I'll like eat that shit up. If it was like, you could be covered in blood and it would be like, for Alex, like he's so cute, I'd be like, oh my god, this book. um Gotta dive in.
Yeah. And what about like you would say would be your like favorite like scene that you filmed?
Oh, that's a great question. I think shooting the final sequence was so rewarding, just because it was so difficult to pull off. Technically, it was a lot of stitching shots together. It was a lot of choreography. All of it's sort of like taking place in one long take that becomes this sort of like rotating 360 camera shot, which then falls to the ground. It's like it
Yeah.
was like a lot of orchestration, and I mean, I think it's a real showstopper in the movie. Like it's one of my favorite things to watch in the theaters with audiences when we took it on the festival circuit, because it was so quiet. You could
Yeah.
hear a fucking pin drop, and it's just like you're just not letting people off the hook. They're waiting for a cut and waiting for a cut and begging for a cut and something to like take them away from the tension of the scene. And I just remember shooting it on that day, and Maddie and Sarah had just rehearsed the shit out of it, and they were just so ready, and they were so electric, and like even just sitting there watching them, I sort of got lost in the
Yeah.
scene, and like started feeling bad for Kenzie, and then I was like, oh yeah, no wait, we're gonna fuck her up in a second, so
I know.
can't feel too bad. So yeah,
I
I loved shooting that scene.
That's really dope. Yeah, and I love that scene too. I don't want to like say what happens, but I thought it was hilarious too. Like the friend, right? Because it was not really a friend; it was like more of an acquaintance that comes to try to give her tips to become a yoga influencer. I think that was like the funniest part too. Um, and I was gonna say, what was the most difficult scene to film, if any?
Oh, the most difficult scene to film. I mean, yeah, that final set piece was a real like orchestration and required Sarah to go into a wheel pose, which is extremely difficult and taxing on your body. And she
Yeah.
had to do it on like a yoga mat covered in blood and
Oh
brains.
shit.
No spoilers. But the other real like sort of the big challenge shot was this shot that sort of floats through the whole house. And our director of photography, Blake Horn, had this whole fucking strapped up, looking like Ripley at the end of Aliens, like like get away from her, you bitch! Like there's like whole like pulley system holding the camera, and he was like basically running through the house, and you get this like sort of like we sped it up in post, so you get this sort of like
Yeah.
really beautiful, cool kind of Evil Dead floating, moving shot. But
Yeah.
we literally had to use every single light we rented uh, for that scene. We used every single light, plus some people's like flashlights on their phones to like light all of that house. I mean, it was like that was a real like, oh, we're doing low budget kind of like scrappy run and gun. Like we're using literally every single light we have left. And, and just taking people's phones and being like, it's a light now. Um, so yeah, but the shot came out great, and it was totally worth it.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's the
pretty
fun
cool.
stuff. There's nothing more fun than like having to get creative and having to like find a solve. I mean, I think you see movies that have these massive budgets that are just so boring, and like you can
Yeah.
tell that they didn't have many challenges. They just sort of showed up and were like, well, the green screen will be like a giant space battle, and like, so you're just reacting. It's like the
Yeah.
fun stuff is like really trying to like problem solve and jump over unexpected obstacles.
Yeah, and be more creative. Yeah, that's what I think I love like about indie horror lately. Like I feel like indie horror is killing it right now in my opinion. I love like mainstream as well, obviously, but like I feel like the creativity's there. Like it's a little bit different. Like with the mainstream is either remakes or here and there we'll get lucky and we'll get something like original. But I don't know. That's what I loved about this film, like the originality and the creativity to it. And how you said it was 15 of you people like on your crew and everything. Like, how did that happen? Like, how was like the casting and all that? Is it like your friends that you had, or how did that come about?
No, we did. I mean, we did everything by the book. We put out a casting call. We auditioned people. Maddie, who played Kenzie, originally auditioned to play Anya, and we saw her and we were like, pretty sure that's Kenzie. Like
Yeah.
she was not right for Anya, but she was so right for this other character, and we kind of like ended
Mm.
up tailoring the character a lot more to her specifically because she just brought something so unique to it and so like real. I mean, like I think Maddie the actor is like the nicest version of Kenzie
Yeah.
that that exists in real life. And then Sarah, I think from the moment we saw her audition, we were like, this is her, and we were right. So,
Yeah.
pat on the back to us.
Yeah, yeah, really good job because I really love like the cast. Like, I think that's also what makes a movie too. Like, if for me, I get thrown off if like the acting seems like really like fake. Like, I was just like, I can't do it, I can't watch it. But like, it was really like the chemistry between those two characters, and even just Anya. Like, I feel like she stole the show. So shout out to like Sarah because she did like a great job
She is
during
the
that role.
show. I mean, damn, she like, it's like that was our pitch to the people auditioning. It's like you were gonna have a whole movie to just
Yeah.
Like you carry the movie on your back. So like that was like the opportunity, but also the challenge. You know, it's like, can you carry this whole movie on your back? And we had to find someone who is going to hold your attention for that long. You know, and she
Yeah.
is just there's something really magnetic about her.
Yes.
And then yeah, the crew. Blake Horn, our director of photography, was a friend of mine from college. We had always wanted to work together. I mean, he's an incredible DP. He had not done a horror feature before, and he just absolutely killed it. He brought on an
Mm.
amazing crew, and yeah, we just sort of like found people, and then we ended up becoming like just all really tight.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
When did you guys start filming? Was it like last year or how long ago
it
was
was
this film?
in December of 2021.
Oh wow.
So this movie was shot in like late 2021. And in the time between then, Matt and myself both got married.
Congrats.
And, you know, we were editing the movie basically like uh, during our day jobs. We did all, we wrote, shot, directed, did all this with full time jobs.
Oh wow.
So yeah, that definitely hampered us a little bit timeline wise. And then we went on the festival circuit, and Welcome Villain picked us up last summer. But yeah, we only just really premiered in May, so it's been a long journey. But
Yeah.
we're really really excited that it's finally getting watched, and we're getting reactions from people, good and bad. You know, it's like a reaction's still a reaction.
Yeah.
It's nice that it's making people feel something, and generally people have been really excited about it. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
been
really
cool.
dope. Yeah, that's like really inspiring to hear. And is this your technically your first feature film, or you've done some in the past, like or like short films you've done?
Yeah, Matt and I have done some short films, but this is our first feature.
That's pretty dope.
So
Well, I think,
it's
in my opinion, I like it. So it's a really dope first feature for you guys.
good. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And I think what I wanted to ask you too is like, what's like the future for you guys, like you and Matt? Like, are you guys thinking of collaborating more, doing more horror, or trying to do something different, like going down a different genre for movies?
No, we love horror. We've got a million horror ideas. We're actually in the middle of writing a
Nice.
script right now um, that we're hoping to sort of get funded and to shoot later this year. It's very supernatural, kind of Twilight Zone. I won't say too much about it, but I'm excited. We're really excited to make that one. But we're also there's been talk of if depending on the reception for the film, but possibly doing a sequel. I think the doors are sort of open for a sequel with the ending, and we have a really fun idea for that too. So we're up for it all. But yeah, he and I are an amazing team. We really
Yeah.
work well together, and that's like that kind of partnership is a hard thing to find.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd be silly to not just sort of keep it going. And we're just really happy with what we made too. Really
Yeah.
proud of that film. So
That's really dope. That's good to hear because I was like, I can see already like your guys' start in the horror. Like this is the first like really dope to have in like, in the horror genre. So I'm excited to see what you guys come up with next. And like I said, if it's a sequel, I'm in because I was like the mythology. Like you could do so much with it. Like you can still keep going. But for horror, like what would be like? I like to ask this question. Like what would be the like a horror movie that if you could watch for the first time again, like what movie would it be and why?
ooh, God, that's a fun fucking question. Wow, you really got me with that.
Yeah, I don't even know what I would say for mine either.
I mean, it's interesting because it's like, would it would it be one of my favorite horror movies, or would it be, it's like I
Yeah.
like for example, like I watched Jaws the other day,
Uh-huh.
and the scare of the guy's body coming out of like the wrecked ship still fucking gets me, and I'm like, how bad would that get me if this was my first time watching the movie? If I like didn't even have an inkling of like
Yeah.
like I knew the body was going to come out, and still I was like, fuck, like I don't know. There's I will say one of the most joyous movie going experiences I've ever had that I would really love to relive was seeing Cabin in the Woods.
I love that movie.
I just remember going into seeing it, and the marketing was so great because they really kind of hid what they were trying to do. And I just remember just like that coming out at a time where I was like, what are movies becoming? Like, what are mainstream movies becoming? And that movie just being like so fucking weird, deliberately weird, and like every single thing that you wanted it to do, it did. And did it so well, and they like just committed to it so fucking hard. Um, yeah, I would like to experience that, the joy of that again.
That was a really fun movie. I always think about the merman or whatever.
That's what I'm saying. Like that
Right.
you were sitting there and you're going like you're kind of tripping out because it's like holy shit, like I didn't think that they were gonna go like all these things were gonna get released and be like killing people, and then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I wonder if they'll like do like they'll pay off that like merman thing, and then it's
Yeah.
just like it's even better than you could have
Yeah.
imagined it to be. You know, it's just like it is like this the it is executed to like the fullest extent,
Yeah.
um, and and I think just as like an artist, you come to understand that that is only the result of like lots and lots and lots of work and fine tuning and like making a really smart script.
Yeah.
I think that's Drew Goddard, maybe. So
Can't
shout out to
remember.
him. Hopefully, if
Yeah.
it's not him,
Yeah.
then he gets a free shout out. So
Yeah, yeah. Even the whole twist of it, like I think either it was one of those movies too where either people loved it or hated it. Because I remember people talking shit about the ending. I thought it was brilliant because I was like, I didn't see it going the way it was supposed to go.
it kind of just goes nuts, and like I don't
Yeah,
know, more movies should go nuts. Like the
yeah,
movies play it too safe. I think we deserve more movies that just take these like massive swings. I
yeah,
love a movie that takes a massive swing, even if it just like whiffs so hard, because I'm just like, at least they did something. At least they
that's
went
true.
for it. You know, it's like I'd rather that than you know the easy way out. You know.
Yeah, or the same typical ending, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then talking about, so this will be the last one before we switch on to like the hip hop topic. But what would be your top five like horror movies or TV shows of all time?
Horror movies are too okay. Well, that's I'm glad that you included TV shows. Um, I weirdly consider Lost to be a pretty scary show. I remember like it
Yeah.
was the first show that I ever really started kind of watching religiously, and I think the idea of like the others um, was so creepy. Just these like people sort of like always watching you, existing in your periphery. Um, the Thing I think is like probably my favorite horror movie of all time. I just like the practical effects, just the sort
Yeah.
of just that the sort of horror concept of like I might be the only one who is not like the others is something that like really personally for me I find very scary. Like like a invasion of the body snatchers, I would be like,
Yeah.
snatch me please, like I don't
I don't
want
want
to
to
be
be the only
alone out
one.
here. Like I want to be part of the snatching. Like I don't want to be like it would really like that shit really creeps me out.
Yeah.
So that, and then um, I think Green Room and Funny Games are two of my other favorites. I just find them. I find the idea of horror that could really happen to you, and like horror that sort of
Yeah.
basically, especially in Funny Games, is sort of just like the boundaries and the illusions of the boundaries and the safety nets around us are so paper thin, and like we could literally open our door and invite in the very people who want to make us like kill each other. It's
Yeah.
like safety is an illusion. Like we're not safe from anything. Um, Terrifying, just absolutely
Yeah.
terrifying. Um, And then, oh, just so I can give a different answer, there's this episode of Black Mirror where this guy gets like put inside like a video game. It's like Kurt Russell's son, Wyatt Russell. Do you know what I'm talking about, that episode?
I don't know if I watched that one.
Oh, it's like so nihilist. It's just like so bleak. But he like
Okay.
there's this like giant spider with like a human head, and it will live rent free in my mind for eternity. Oh, also, oh man, there's a movie on Netflix called The House. It's a stop motion film, um, and it's like three chapters all set, like three basically short films, like an anthology, all set in the same house. And the first chapter of that movie, legitimately one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my entire life. It is like, and the rest of the movie is like very like, it's like kind of creepy and kind of funny, but like this fucking, do yourselves a favor if you're listening to this, The House, Netflix, one of the scariest like stop motion short films you will ever see. It is like, yeah, that one really fucked me up.
Okay, I gotta check that one out. I haven't seen that one. I'm surprised it was not even on my radar, so I'll check it out.
It's like if
Um,
Ari Aster made like a stop motion, like a 30-minute stop
okay,
motion film. It's like
okay, I'm sold.
it's so good. And the movie itself is really phenomenal. I recommend watching the whole thing, but the first chapter is just
Okay, cool. Well, those are great picks. And so moving on to like the hip hop, because you mentioned you're like a huge hip hop fan, and we were talking a little bit about it before we got on online here. Um, kind of do the same thing. Like, what's some of your like top five, like either rappers or rap albums or rap songs?
um I mean, top for me, and this is purely personal, the Carter 3 was a very definitive album for me. Like that's came out the year I graduated high school, and I had a girlfriend who lived um, like about a half hour away from me, and I would just drive back and forth to her house, and I'd listen to that album nonstop. Um, and he just is like, I mean, it is just one of those like all hits, no misses albums. I mean,
Yeah.
like every like seven of those songs went on to become like number one Billboard hits, like legitimately. I mean,
Yeah.
there's like Mr. Carter, there's Lollipop,
Pop.
there's Mrs. Officer, there's Let the Beat Build. I mean, there's just so
Yeah,
many
hit after
fucking
hit.
heaters on that one. Good Kid, Mad City, obviously,
Yeah.
is absolute perfect album. Um, I really love this band uh, called um, wow, why am I forgetting the name? It's Pharrell's band.
Is it nerd?
Yeah,
No.
NERD. Yeah, Nerd.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love their album Fly or Die.
Okay.
That was like a big one for me. That was the first concert I ever went to go see by myself, was them.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, I love me some Jack Harlow. I got to
Yeah.
shout out Jack Harlow. He's my Louisville guy.
Yeah.
He's he's like really killing it right now. And he's putting Louisville on the map in a great way. So,
Yeah.
um, and then like honestly, the shit that I listen to most nowadays is the ladies are just like kind of stepping on the men right now. Like
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
listening to a lot of Glorilla. I'm listening to a lot of Flo Milli. I'm listening to a lot of Meg. They're just like they got that shit that just makes you want to like move. And listen, like I love, I I've done I put my hours in with Jedi mind tricks
Yeah.
and you know uh oh God, what is that? What is I'm like totally blanking on people's names. The bling bling era was cute, but it's about to be done. I leave you full of clips like the moon blocking the sun. Do you know what I'm talking about? Immortal
I'm drawing a
Technique.
blank. Okay.
Immortal Technique.
Yeah.
I've listened to all that, but I also love a hip hop song that just makes you like want to shake
Want to
your ass.
dance.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
live to shake my ass. So yeah, I'm very much into this like
This
kind
new
of
era.
Meg Thee Stallion Cardi B takeover because I think I mean they're just like they're really good too. I mean they have like hooky catchy songs, but like they are just like on their shit, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and Meg Thee Stallion like surprised me because there was a song that I heard. It was like an album she had like a couple years ago. It was called like one of the tracks is called Anxiety, and I was like, oh
Hmm.
shit, like she can rap too. Like because I'm used to just hearing her like do like more party, like typical Texas rapper, like those type of like I said, make your shake your ass and type of shit. But when I heard that, I was like, oh shit, like she also has dope stuff. So I started listening to her a little bit more. But yeah, I love that there's like a mixture of everything. Like there's something for everybody in like the hip hop genre. So you can
Yeah,
like
I just looked up
party to
there's
it, can be lyrical.
Cardi B Get Up 10. Have you ever heard that song?
No.
That's very much like in the vein of what you're talking about where it's like Cardi you're like she can do a banger, but like Get Up 10 is like you're like, she
She
can
can rap.
really like rap. Like it's good. Um it's like one of those like saga songs. Like it feels very much like T Grizzly. So like a lot of T Grizzly stuff. I love his stuff where it's just like everything he does feels like he's like telling the story of his life.
Yeah.
Uh, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like right now for me, like for like MCs that is really killing it too. I think like Rhapsody is another one that's up there. And I think that what I like about her is she does a little bit of everything too. Like because she just dropped an album a couple of months ago, and it's more like a diary for this one. But she also has like those like anthems where you can just like it's talking her shit. So like I really love that about her too. Um, and then we were talking about like you're from Kentucky and everything like that. Like you shouted out Jack Harlow. Is there anybody else? Like I know we were talking about like Bryson Tiller and like
Bryson
City
Tiller and
Limits.
Nappy Roots. Nappy Roots
Yeah.
really like kind of paved the way for a lot of Louisville hip hop. They had a couple like really big hits. I'm gonna have a good day. Da 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 da. Like they were like they kind of like were Louisville's iron in the fire during that like incredible like Southern hip hop renaissance of
Yeah.
like spearheaded by Ludacris mostly, who I would say might be my favorite rapper of all time. I mean, if if not favorite rapper, like best rap voice of all time. Like I mean, his voice
Yeah.
is just like it's like maple syrup. It's like warm maple syrup on a stack of pancakes. It's just like delicious. Um, but yeah, Nappy Roots was like I remember just really like looking up to them as a kid and being like, oh, these are some guys who are from Louisville that have sort of made it on a national level, and they always like gave back to the community in a really great way. So shout out to them. I hope
Yeah.
they're
Me
doing
too.
good. The thing that I'm blessed with is a 24-year-old brother who um, is constantly feeding me all the new shit and keeping me
Yeah.
up to date on what it is that I'm missing out on. He'll throw names at me that I'm like, that can't be real. Like Ski Mask the Slump God, and
Oh
then
yeah.
I listen to Ski Mask the Slump God, and I'm like, yeah, this fucking rules. Like I like there's just something. I truly believe that there's just something when you have it, and you can hear it. It's like there's this like a hit is a hit, and like a real one is a real one. Like you can just hear it in their music, you can hear it in their energy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, listen, from Kentucky, I don't know. I know Jack Harlow has his own label, so
Yeah.
um, and I'm friends with his manager, Chris. So, Chris, I
Oh
hope you don't
nice.
take it personally, but I don't.
Yeah,
Uh,
Jack Harlow's really dope though. I remember hearing him before he even blew up. Like I heard him on a freestyle. I think it might have been a Sway in the Morning or something, and I was like, "Who the fuck is this kid?" And then he like maybe like a couple years after is when he like blew up.
Yeah.
But I really like his shit too. Like he can spit if he wants to spit, and then he could just do just hits or party type of music. But I don't know. So I think I know some people like it's like everything. Like everybody's gonna opinionate on what they like or not. I mean that's part of like hip hop, right? Like as far as how it started, like either you like certain things and you don't. But I dig his music. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think something that I really admire about him, and I think honestly this kind of ties back to our movie is he's like a young, good-looking white guy in a space that is not, historically white.
Yeah.
And he's definitely aware of that in a way where he's very contemplative about it. He really addresses it quite a bit in his songs. And something we wanted to get into with Mind, Body, Spirit is just sort of like the idea of white people in spaces that are not historically theirs. Anya's
Yeah.
messing in things that she doesn't really quite understand and aren't. Yoga is not a white thing. It does not come from white girls in Texas. It's like so. I think that um, even me as an artist, as like a white guy, I'm constantly sort of questioning what sort of spaces I'm allowed to be in and like how to be respectful
Thank
of
you.
those things. And I've always really appreciated that about Jack, and I appreciate that he
Yeah.
finds a way to talk about it so lyrically in his songs. He contains multitudes. That's all you could hope for in an artist.
Yeah, and like you said, yeah, that's what I like about him too. Like, where it's not like a culture vulture, you know. Like, there's those artists where you're like, oh, it's a culture vulture, but you could tell he's like well read too. Like, he knows like hip hop. He like is respectful of the culture. So for me, like that's for me like already a win. And then he can spit. Like, I think he holds his own. Like being a white kid, it's like Eminem is one of my favorite. And I know a lot of people say, well, if he was black, it wouldn't be the same. I'm like, no, Eminem can spit regardless if whatever if he wasn't white. I think it's if he was rapping the way he's rapping, he's still one of the dopest in my book.
Yeah, he's
But
undeniable. I mean, he's
yeah,
just like he's a singular talent, and
yeah,
I recommend you listen to the first time I ever heard about Jack was he posted this video that was going around that kind of went viral of him doing like I guess called Dark Knight freestyle.
okay,
Um, that's what introduced me to him, and it's really fun to go like it's fun to look back on now because he just like he just looks like this like little goon ass kid teenager just like in like a back alleyway like he just he's still got his little baby face but he's like you can see it in that video. You're like this kid has something different, like there's something here that is like kind of undeniable. And I think I always have a good time just sort of like going back in people's careers and sort of seeing that moment where you're like, oh, you're different, like you got
yeah,
something.
yeah. And I agree. We were talking about like the hip hop and horror, right? Like that you want to continue doing horror movies. And my question I wanted to ask, like, would you, because you're a huge hip hop fan as well, like, would you ever want to incorporate like hip hop in your projects or future projects, or is that something you have even thought about?
It's not anything I've thought about before. I think um but I think that there is space for it. And it's like before the show started we were talking about you know Jordan Peele sort of fucking with I got five on it, for us. And like
Yeah.
um I think when I think of hip hop I don't necessarily think of horror, but um I think hip hop would inspire a lot of like horror music video ideas for me. I'm just wondering
Yeah.
how like I'm wondering what you think about it too, because
Yeah.
I could see some like really dark, like kind of like turgid like hip hop, especially like honestly it's like more than anything I could see like a hip hop like werewolf transformation,
Yeah.
um but like done with like a sort of British grime sort of like beat under it, like having like a Skepta
Oh yeah. There you
um
go.
or somebody like that, like I feel like I don't know. It's tough to imagine like hip hop playing over like typical horror scenes. So, like you'd have to really write something intentional
Yeah.
to the music. The visuals would really have to match the music in a kind of um, music video-y kind of way.
Yeah, and even like I mean I don't know if maybe I'm right now I'm not thinking like of all the movies I've watched because there's so many out there, but it would be cool to also like a story like involving like you know how there's a lot of movies nowadays where like oh it's following like a upcoming rapper or something like that. Like I don't know, I could incorporate even
Hmm.
part of the story too, right? Like I mean like the yoga thing where like nobody really did the yoga thing, right? With the horror, so maybe like some rapper and maybe like even like you said a werewolf thing that'd be kind of cool. Like somehow like they're an artist. They get bit by like a werewolf or something. They gotta perform. Like if they freaking like turn into a werewolf while they're fucking performing or some shit, kind of like The Howling.
Did we just
But
write a movie? Shit.
right.
Yeah, they got to perform. They got to perform on a full moon.
Yeah, right. Like
They're tearing that audience up. Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know. Like, there's something like we were talking too about Tyler the Creator, like
yes,
Yonkers. There is something, but I don't think it's like a supernatural and organic match between the two things, which is
yeah,
why I think we haven't seen more hip hop horror. I feel like almost all music in horror now is very much like beep, bloom, like these like all
yeah. It's more
strings and like
instrumental
it's
and
like
like
it's like
scores.
it's all like Robert Eggersy hereditary kind of like designed to sort of like get under your skin. But
Yeah,
I think I don't know, maybe we need to give hip hop more credit in the horror space. Maybe there is a way to make it work.
yeah. Because I mean, like we always had like the heavy metal and rock songs, right, in horror movies. And I think, I mean, I feel like in the '90s there was a little bit more hip hop in like maybe the soundtracks, not necessarily on the score of the film, or maybe here and there, like if it was playing like maybe like Leprechaun in the Hood or something like that, just popped in my head. So certain like movies like that. But for me, I think also what I love about it, like even if it doesn't like cross together, like before we got online, I was saying how when I was coming up with the concept of this podcast, I was like, I feel like they have more similarities than differences. And when I say that, I mean like they're kind of like the ugly stepchild of their genres, right? Because was seen as like more violent. Now it's more like one of the number one genres, ironically, and same thing for hip hop or rap. But before it was like the ugly stepchild, like oh they're too violent or like they're misogynistic and all this stuff. And so I was
Mhm.
like, wait. So when I was like, wait, I love these two genres, and ironically they kind of have the same reasons why people don't like them, but then the reason why we love them, right?
Yeah, that's
Uh,
that's really true. Yeah, it's like I trust me more than anything. I want them to come together in some beautiful harmony. You know what? I weirdly feel like it works better the other way. I feel like it would be easier to write a horror hip hop song or make like a horror
yes, yeah,
music
I
like
agree.
I just than to implement hip hop into the score of a horror film.
Yeah.
Um, I honestly, I was as we were talking, I was thinking about maybe one of my top five favorite hip hop songs of all time, which is "The Cool" by Lupe Fiasco.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
It's like all about this. It's about like this dude who comes back as like a zombie basically, and like goes back to his old hood, and like it's like uh it's like there's something really creepy about it, and there's all these like great visuals of them like you know pouring out liquor in his memory, and like his like bones and skeleton like filling up with the liquor, and like it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like you're right. Like I feel like if I had to pick like where horror has influenced more, it's like the like you said, like the artists, like the hip hop artists that are like horror fans. And so I was
Yeah.
like that's what I love about like Eminem, like his beginnings, like with the Jason Voorhees mask and all his like dark like music videos and songs too. And even now that he's gonna drop an album, he's just dropped a couple like promos, and they're all like horror inspired. And so, and you brought up like Tyler the Creator, so I think it's really dope how that meshes.
Yeah, it's cool, and I hope people keep experimenting with that, and it's
Yeah.
definitely like I'm glad you brought it up because they're two things that I love, but I'd never ever really considered putting them
Yeah.
together. So I think all my best ideas are born from weird sort of like challenges like that. It's like
Yeah.
how do you make a horror movie around hip
Yeah.
hop?
Yeah.
Um,
If you
Obviously,
do, let me
besides our
know.
werewolf movie, which is going to make
Right.
$4 billion.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, man. If you ever do, let me know. I'm here to help. I'm like
Yeah, for
trying to
sure.
move into like the
Listen, you're
filmmaking
you're
space.
you're already executive producer on it,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, that'd be dope. That'd be dope. And like before we get out of here too, like I usually like to end it with this question. It's a little bit deeper, or however deep you want to get. But like, what kind of legacy would you want to leave behind, either creatively in like the filmmaking space, or just personally?
oh, that's a great question. I think the most important thing to me as an artist is conveying these ideas and my voice the best that I can. And I can only hope that other people take joy in what I've created. But the most important thing for me is like manifesting that and creating that for myself and and extricating this thing from my mind and putting it out into the world. And I hope people like it, and I hope they enjoy it. But I think more than anything, I hope that it inspires other people to sort of find a way to channel their anxieties and their weird thoughts and their intrusive thoughts and their fears into something um, strange and funny and beautiful and freaky um, and just find a way to express themselves. I think we are so conditioned to not do that. And I think that art is such a beautiful thing, and it just becomes more and more important each day. Um, in the face of AI and
Yeah.
the Zuckerbergs and the Elon Musks of this fucking world, to just create and be weird and like kind of let your freak flag fly. So I guess if there was a legacy I'd want to leave behind, I would say like go nuts, let the freak flag fly, tap into that weird shit, tap into those intrusive thoughts, because there's people out there who are having those same thoughts, and like you can make them feel more seen. You can make them
Yeah.
see you. Your art can be a way to sort of allow people into you a little bit more. And it can be a way for you to let go of a lot of things too. It can be very therapeutic. So yeah, go arts.
Yeah, dope. I love that. Yeah, I agree with you. And like I said, you and Matt created a dope film, and like your whole cast and crew. And I'm excited to see where it goes. I know you were talking about that you're gonna have like a physical release, which I'm gonna for sure
Yeah,
cop. But congrats, and hope to see another project soon. And keep me posted. You're always welcome back. I like to call my alumni, right, of like the podcast. So
oh
thank you so
hell yeah.
much. And is there anything else you want to like plug in before we get out of here?
No, just go watch the movie. You can rent it on Amazon Prime. You can rent it on Apple TV. You can rent it on Vudu, which I'm not even sure is a real thing, but it's out there. And you can watch it on your Xbox, or pretty much however the fuck you want to watch it, you can watch it. So yeah, give it a rent or download it illegally. God knows, I'm sure it's out there somehow. But just watch it. Give it 80 minutes. We're not asking much, and hopefully you have a good time.
All right, man, Alex. Well, thank you so much. It was fun. It was fun to conversate about the movie and have you on today.
Yeah, really appreciate you having me.
All right, thank you.